honour to address you today on the policy debate for Budget Vote 13 in the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. This is an important platform because the work of this department is most directly felt in provinces, districts and municipalities. When a police station is delayed, the community feels it. When a court is not complete, justice is weakened. And when a government office is not fit for purpose, service delivery suffers. When a bridge, school, clinic, harbour or public building is neglected, that impact is local before it is national. That's why this budget vote is not just about figures, but it's about where the public money is used to deliver better infrastructure, unlock public assets, support communities and ensure that the state serves people properly. For the 26-27 financial year, the department receives an allocation of 7.8 billion rand with a medium-term allocation of 24.6 billion. Of this year's allocation, approximately 6.4 billion is directed towards transfers and subsidies, including support for our entities and conditional grants to provinces and municipalities for the expanded public works program. The Property Management Trading Entity, or PMTE, has a projected revenue of 18 billion for the 26-27 financial year, and it remains one of the most urgent areas of reform in this portfolio. Our task is clear: to turn the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure into an economic delivery unit for South Africa. This means using infrastructure to support growth, jobs and service delivery. It means managing public land and buildings with discipline, and it means ensuring that public employment is fair and linked to opportunity. It means confronting corruption, waste and weak systems wherever they exist. And over the past year, we have made progress on several important areas. Through Infrastructure South Africa, we have strengthened the state's ability to prepare credible projects and mobilize investment. At the South African Investment Conference, ISA helped unlock a $1 billion investment pledge amounting to approximately 17 billion rand, linked to a large-scale bioethanol production facility in South Africa, which would be the first of its kind. The Minister of Finance has approved the formalization of the Infrastructure South Africa, and a draft bill will be released for public comment soon. This is important because South Africa does not only need announcements, but they need projects that are properly prepared, financed, procured and delivered. In Johannesburg, the new 769 million rand deeds office is rising in the inner city and is the first new high-rise in the Johannesburg CBD in more than 20 years. Once it's completed, and we expect completion to be in October of this year, it will reduce the state's rental burden by millions of rands and support the renewal of our inner cities. Through this project, we are also focusing on unblocking stalled and long-delayed other projects. These delays are not minor administrative issues. They affect communities and client departments and, of course, public confidence. We have supported progress on priority projects, including the handover of the Durban Forensic Laboratory to the South African Police Service in 12 months, and the appointment of a contractor for the Sarah Bartman Centre of Amendments in the Eastern Cape begins this month. It has completed and they begin construction this month. Public Works must play its part in the fight against crime, the delivery of justice, and the completion of facilities that matter to communities. We have also begun to stabilize the IDT. When I took office, the IDT was in serious difficulty. It had lost confidence amongst client departments, contractors, and communities. It was financially unstable and associated with governance failures, with interference, dubious appointments, and the willingness to ignore its deed of trust to achieve certain desires. Despite legal threats, we were determined to rebuild this entity. Under a new board and its leadership, the IDT is being rebuilt as a driver of social infrastructure. Its order book has grown by 2 billion rand to 6 billion in confirmed projects, and its cash position has improved from near bankruptcy, nearly tripling its cash on hand. In the 25-26 financial year, the IDT completed 279 social infrastructure facilities, exceeding its target of 244. That is the IDT that we need, focused on delivery in provinces, proper governance, social infrastructure, jobs, and contractor development. Honourable members, we have also made progress in using public assets for public good. In the past financial year, the department has made more than 46 state-owned properties available for shelters for victims of gender-based violence and femicide, as well as skills development centres. We have done this in 1 year, and there's more to come. We are proceeding with the disposal of 801 properties that the state no longer needs. Public property must not sit idle while communities need places of safety, skill centres, housing, development and economic activity. Through the Construction Industry Development Board, we are strengthening accountability in the construction sector. In 22 years, only 2 contractors were removed from the registry of contractors. In the last 22 months, 52 contractors have been removed for fraudulent activity and failure to deliver. This sends a clear message. Contractors who defraud the state, abandon projects, or fail communities cannot expect to return to business as usual or get more work. We have also begun to reform the expanded public works program. During 9 EPWP listening tours across the country, close to 4,500 participants and community members have raised serious concerns about gatekeeping, manipulated lists, ghost beneficiaries, unfair access, abuse, and even sex for jobs. That is not public employment. That is at times exploitation. Last month, we launched the Working on Infrastructure pilot program to begin changing this in KwaZulu-Natal. At the end of this month, we will be launching the second program in the province of Limpopo. The pilot responds to 2 realities in South Africa. The first is an unemployment crisis, and the second is an infrastructure maintenance crisis. Working on infrastructure provides longer and more structured work opportunities of between 8 and 10 months, linked to skills development, mentorship, workplace experience, and pathways into further work, enterprise, and training. It also introduces digital application processes to reduce gatekeeping and manipulation and to make the process more fairer. For this House, this reform is especially important because provinces and municipalities are central to EPWP implementation. If EPWP works properly, it can restore dignity and provide a bridge to opportunity. If it is abused, however, it becomes another tool of exclusion. In the year ahead, we will strengthen digital recruitment, improve participation verification, investigate public bodies accused of abusing EPWP, and finalize the revised EPWP recruitment guideline for consultation for the first time in 10 years. Honourable members, while progress has been made, we must be also honest about difficulties that we continue to face. There are many dedicated officials in the department who want to reform and who want to see success. But there are also those who benefit from weak systems, poor oversight, and lack of accountability. That's why we are determined to reform the property management trading entity. The PMT should be one of the state's most important instruments for managing public land, buildings, and leases. Instead, it's often associated with financial pressure, delayed leases, underutilized buildings, poor systems, and weak accountability. The PMT to date has not achieved a clean audit since it was established in 2014. Its overdraft has doubled to nearly 4 billion in the last 20 months, and it has also failed adequately to respond to serious financial issues raised by the Auditor General, including material irregularities. This is the most serious form of censure by the AG. At the same time, government continues to spend approximately 6 billion rand a year on private leases, despite owning thousands of buildings that are empty and large amounts of land. An internal study has shown that stronger oversight is needed because leases average between 17 and 34% above market-related rentals, and in some instances far higher. In one case, 300% higher. This cannot continue. Compliance is non-negotiable. Where leases are not adequately concluded correctly, we will provide oversight and we will assist to make sure that they are done so. In some instances, we also see emergencies appear that are created to involve nefarious activities. This has been described by our own internal investigation unit as a self-created emergency. The clearest example of this is 146 London Road in Pretoria. A preliminary report by the department's Anti-Corruption and Fraud Awareness found The lease was concluded in March 2023 for the then Department of Public Enterprises at a cost of nearly 70 million rand over 5 years. This was done despite the President having already announced that the Department of Public Enterprises would be reconfigured and closed. In plain terms, roughly 70 million rand was committed for a lease without a tenant. What's worse, it now seems increasingly likely that we are going to be financially responsible for up to 50 million rand to settle this matter with the tenant. The report further found that when the National Prosecuting Authority's investigating directorate against corruption later required office accommodation, internal supply chain management processes had already been concluded for IDAC to be accommodated at the CSIR property in Pretoria. The report then found that an intentional and creative urgent need was then made to try and accommodate them in the N146 London Road. The report also raised serious concerns about the original tender process, including that officials had recommended not once but twice that the bid be cancelled, but they still proceeded anyway. BBBEE compliance was ignored. Procurement process and National Treasury prescripts were also ignored, but they proceeded anyway. Although occupation did not take place and the lease had not become effective, the report warned of a potential legal and financial exposure for the state, which has now come to pass. I did not accept the report's recommendations because they failed to hold a single person accountable. Responsibility simply cannot be placed on a former Deputy Director General who had resigned, while others who may have created, approved, enabled or ignored the situation escape scrutiny. That is why I've requested National Treasury's directives, guidance and requirements in respect of an independent investigation into the procurement process and the implementation of this lease. Anyone involved in wrongdoing like this must be identified and must be held accountable, and I hope this House will join me in that. Where there was negligence, there must be consequence management. Where there was misconduct, there will be disciplinary action. And where there's criminality, there will also be criminal action. This is not my only concern. We have dealt with a number of problematic client departments that have given up trying to get leases from us. This is why the department is moving to allow client departments under certain conditions and in terms of GIAMA to apply to conclude lease agreements themselves, while Public Works retains final approval and oversight. This is not about weakening oversight, but it's about ensuring that we are able to deliver for our clients. We're also implementing a facilities management and prestige financial recovery plan to move from reactive crisis management to proper planning, maintenance, budgeting and asset management. The AG's findings on Telkom Tower show the consequence of poor asset management. The state cannot continue to own buildings, fail to use them, allow them to deteriorate, and then continue paying billions to private landlords. Honourable members, the answer is structural reform. That is why our first major priority for the year ahead is the establishment of the South African National Property Company, as announced by the President in his State of the Nation address. The property company will shift the state from passive ownership to active asset management. It will identify valuable assets, structure partnerships, unlock investment, reduce reliance on expensive leases, support better maintenance, and ensure that public land and buildings are used for public good. Well-located state land can support affordable housing, mixed-use precincts, social infrastructure, urban renewal, and economic activity. But this requires professional governance, commercial capability, transparency, and a credible asset register. The PMTE has shown that it is unable to do so, and that is why the property company must be built differently. Our second priority is to deepen EPWP reform through working on infrastructure. Having launched the pilot in KwaZulu-Natal with Limpopo next, we will focus on strengthening digital recruitment, improving verification, investigating abuse, and finalizing the revised recruitment guidelines. The goal is to make sure that EPWP becomes inclusive and not exclusive. Our third priority is around small harbour reform. South Africa's small harbours have significant economic potential, particularly for coastal provinces and local communities. They can support fishing, tourism, small business development, boat repair, aquaculture, local manufacturing, and coastal regeneration. We are developing a framework to determine the best use model for each harbour so that each site can be assessed according to its local economic potential. The aim is practical: to turn coastal public assets into engines of jobs, growth, and investment. Honourable members, the year ahead will not be easy. We face weak systems, delayed projects, and growing financial pressures, underutilised assets, procurement failures, and in some instances, organised resistance. But we will not slow down. In fact, we will speed up. We will continue with our clean-up efforts. We will continue with our reform efforts, because the reform is non-negotiable and it is irreversible. We will continue unlocking public assets for public good, and we will continue unblocking infrastructure projects, as well as strengthening our entities. And we will continue working, most importantly, with our provinces and municipalities to ensure that public infrastructure is delivered for where people live. This House has a crucial role to play. It raises stalled projects, which many of you have done. It reports often abuse of EPWP, and it also helps public assets that can be used better. Working with us to ensure that infrastructure is not only planned nationally, but delivered locally. And we want to continue that hand of friendship and partnership with the National Council of Provinces. This budget vote is about building a department that protects public money, manages public assets properly, and supports service delivery and delivers economic growth to every corner of this province. That is how we turn public works and infrastructure into an economic delivery unit of South Africa for all and not just for the few. Thank you so much.